All right, here comes. You should have seen it coming. Should have known this was going to happen. This is a weird. It is a weird day of your political heroes getting their hands all over sports. Like they're all over it now, and there's just different levels of it. So I'll start with this one because this is one where I think it might be popular that they get into. Here comes Congress. Here comes Congress. In more ways than one, but here comes Congress for this one. Let's start with this one. Here comes Congress, and the question is, what does Congress do about Saudi money in sports? And you're going to say, well, I can't follow that. You better follow it because it turns out Jeff Ward wasn't that far off. You better get ready, NBA, NFL. You better get ready, and I think they are. So the question is going to be, do you need and want Congress to say, nope, not a chance. No, they're not buying you. It's an international issue that is now hitting this country. The front end of it was the LIV Saudi-backed golf tour and the PGA merging. That's the front end of it. But they are not done. And I'm going to read you a story. It's exactly what I predicted a couple of weeks ago. The money is too big. The influence is too great. It had to make its way here to mainstream. So this is complicated. The LIV Golf Tour is backed by a Saudi investment fund with, right now follow this, right now it is a $600 billion investment fund. That, I think this is where the NBA and the NFL are starting to enter the picture, that is expected to grow, according to the Saudis, to $1 trillion. So using sports and sports stars to gain favor around the world. That's it. Now, there was, just so you know that this is not just about PR and sport washing and trying to hide human rights problems. There was, I spent a lot of time, I don't sleep, so I spent a lot of time reading about the strategy behind the Saudi investment fund because it really started in Europe. And what is interesting about this is there's two reasons to do it. They don't like to admit one of them publicly, and that is we want to buy influence. We want to buy friends. We would like for people to cheer on the teams we buy. That way they won't notice that people have been getting killed. So yes, sport washing is part of it. It's not their mission statement of the investment effort. One of the things that the royal family, who put the money into the investment fund, wanted to do early on was they wanted to buy European soccer teams at depressed levels because of COVID. And so most of the acquisition started about the time of COVID. And the case in point is Newcastle United. And Newcastle United is a legendary, it's sort of like, it's not the Green Bay Packers, but it'd be kind of like the Pittsburgh Steelers. In English soccer, they've been a great club for a long time, but they've really been awful the past decade or so. The Saudis come in, buy it up, put a ton of money into it. Let them have whatever they want, whatever you want. Buy players, buy your way to success, and it worked. So then they, the LIV Golf thing, they bought up soccer stars. They bought up other teams around the world. I believe wrestling as well. Live Nation, the concert series, they got a bunch of money into that. So that's just so you kind of know how this thing has been progressing. And the idea is, one, they like the investment. They like the power. They like the sex appeal that comes with owning these sports franchises. But think about that. The fund is going to go up to $1 trillion. You know what that can buy. You know what that can buy, America. Better get ready for it. So now we can debate how much winning sports teams help the Saudis, but the answer is it does put a better face to their reputation. It does. And their reputation is sponsoring terrorists and a well-deserved, abysmal human rights reputation. No doubt. I don't think it's an accident that some of this stuff started post chopping up an American journalist. Either way, they've been buying and buying and buying, and now I get to say, I think I told you so. Now what do you want to do? What would you like to do? You better ask yourself, do you expect Congress to step in and say, no, NBA? No. NFL? No. No, not doing it. You're not selling to them. But it's $1 trillion. No, because that's where this thing is headed. And I think it's heading there pretty quickly, probably faster than most people realize. Now, the amazing thing about this is fans don't care. I mean, truthfully, the product, I mean, again, you take Newcastle United or you take the Live Golf Tour, they know what they're doing. They buy stars. They'll say any amount of money to buy stars. I mean, it's the criticism of the Yankees a long time ago. Well, they're just going to spend any amount of money to get every great player they can. That's exactly what these guys do. Just win and make it cool. Whatever the stars want, give it to them. We'll pay for it. So the fans end up going, well, this is great. We're winning for once. And so putting a better face to the abysmal human rights record, it does work. How much we can debate. But I think you can't deny that, all of a sudden, if fill in the blank NBA franchise, I'll just say the Spurs, this would be a hilarious setup. All of a sudden, the Spurs go from bottom of the barrel to being in the NBA Finals, you'd be amazed how little the people of San Antonio care about who it is that owns the team. So it works. Now, the question for all of you as you get ready for this, as I read to you now what is being planned, do you want politicians? Do you want politicians, team owners, athletes to do this? Do you want politicians to say no? Do you think at some level, because there's antitrust issues here, not to get too nerdy and boring, sports have historically in this country been able to get around antitrust. It goes back to the late 1920s, I believe, and in fact, I think it's Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, and baseball was given antitrust exemptions. In other words, they could have their own cartel. They could operate like no other business in this country. Same with the NFL. So Congress will argue, we do have a hand in this. We gave you an antitrust exemption so you guys can protect your own. And they did that because they get paid off by rich owners. But they do have an antitrust exemption. So the question would be, I don't think it's completely debatable to say Congress can't get involved. Congress, if they want to get involved, are going to say, we gave you an antitrust exemption. We have every right to look into this. In fact, Congress has already got their hands all over this Live Golf Tour merger. I guarantee you by next week, you're going to hear about congressional hearings coming up. But guess what else is coming? No, Mr. Jones, you cannot sell that team to the royal family for they have $1 trillion. You can't. So what do you want them to do? I mean, what do you want Congress to do? What do you want owners to think about this? Get ready for it. What do you want owners to do? What do you want athletes to do? What they're saying is, you can buy me, you can buy us, you can pay me if you fill in the blank. I mean, what everyone keeps missing. So I can tell you now, and I'll tell you what's going to have the first prospect apparently are some NBA franchises. But so start thinking about this now. One, you can ask yourself, should Congress be able to jump in and say no altogether? Number two, say it's the Spurs. Should the current ownership, Greg Popovich might do it. That would be an interesting setup. Do they have to say, we'll sell to you? Or Congress says to you, or the commission of the NBA says, okay, look, you want to overpay for the San Antonio Spurs by $1 billion? Here's what you have to do in your own country. I bet you they won't, because it hasn't happened yet. Not one time has anyone said, you know what, you can buy me. But here's what I want you guys to start doing. They don't do that at all. They just get paid off. All right, so you have to get ready for a couple of storylines here. First of all, you've got... This is I think it's the Wall Street Journal. PGA Tours deal with Live Saudi backers to be investigated by the Justice Department. Okay, that's happening right away. And then, what did I say a week ago? You made fun of me. You said that's crazy. That's foolish. Did I not drop the NFL in all of this? Did I not do that? Well, guess who's talking? Because it's money. All right, headline Yahoo Sports. After Live forced a PGA merger, could the Saudi Public Investment Fund target NFL ownership? Oh, okay. When the PGA Tour's merger with Live Golf was announced on June 6, it didn't take long for the news to spread through NFL hallways. Yeah, money, man, money. Formula One, the WWE, and development of the Saudi Cup, an international horse race, boasting a world record $20 million purse. That's an impressive haul that wouldn't be complete without mentioning the signing of iconic worldwide soccer star Cristiano Ronaldo to play for the Al Nassr Football Club in Riyadh for a mere $200 million per year. They pay him $200 million per year, and I'll bet you it's tax-free. And oh, by the way, he and his girlfriend got an exemption so they can live together. They paid him $200 million a year. That's the kind of power showcased by the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, which was last accounted to have holdings of over $650 billion with a target goal of $1 trillion by 2025. And the Saudi Arabia's quest for a global sports imprint is just beginning. It was first noticeable enough in 2020 to draw the attention of Forbes magazine, which reported on Saudi Arabia's sudden and aggressive hunt for cheap sports assets. According to Forbes, the pursuit included Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman circling multiple European soccer teams with revenues hit hard by the pandemic. Prince Mohammed's pursuit of a broadened global sports presence was seen as using the PIF to carry out what the Saudis call Vision 2030. You know what that means, right? Look the other way, 2030. Don't look over here, we chop their heads off, kind of thing. It was immediately out on the practice field, says one AFC executive telling Yahoo Sports. I heard it in the hallway by the time I was outside. Guys were already talking about it. I can't remember the last time that happened. I don't know how we would have handled if Saudi Arabia wanted a piece of the NFL. They're talking about it because it's an issue. So I think Congress is now, they're not just going to be talking about golf. They're going to have to start talking about the NBA and the NFL because owners are already aware. And I got to tell you something. I suspect this didn't come out of nowhere. I suspect a call or 2 or 10 has been made from the prince. And I'm thinking maybe the answer, don't know this, I'm thinking the answer may be, whoa, how much? Okay. Hang on a second there, Prince. We got to think about this. Don't say anything publicly. But something about the conversation is already starting up because there's a few NFL franchises that need to be purchased, and they're running out of people wealthy enough to purchase them. So the executive says, I don't know how we would have handled if Saudi Arabia wanted a piece of the NFL, but I think that will at least be a back burner conversation for franchise owners, or he says maybe a front burner because of the timing. With the Commanders for sale and finalizing the Seattle Seahawks coming up, there's going to be at least 2 NFL franchises up for sale very, very soon. Would you like to sell for $4 billion to some guy named Bob from Des Moines, or would you like to sell for $12 billion from some guy named Mohammed? What do you think? And don't think it's not coming. Don't think it. So then they go on about a handful of high-ranking team executives who spoke with Yahoo following the Live PGA merger shared a similar opinion about the NFL's future and how it could be impacted by foreign wealth. Something along the lines of, never say never. Oh, everyone made fun of me when I mentioned this. As one NFL team president put it, the fact that the PGA couldn't sweat out Live for a year is pretty bad. Yeah. 1 year ago, nobody would have believed the PGA could have been wrestled so quickly into a merger with a foreign-owned golf tour, especially after showing its public relations teeth in the fight against Live, which included a highlighting of Saudi Arabia's poor human rights record and pointing toward the Saudi nationality of many of the hijackers who carried out 9/11. If anything, it looked like the PGA was prepared to throw down against Live. But the Saudi regime and a portfolio that includes, but is hardly limited to, primary ownership of Premier League club Newcastle United, a massive stake in California-based ticket juggernaut Live Nation Entertainment, as well as the WWE. As one NFL executive put it, if you wanted to say you're involved in Americana, there is no better way than the NFL. End quote. Yeah, you want to put a nice face on it. Let the Texans win for a change. That'll change everyone's perspective, won't it? It's also worth noting that, Yahoo reports, that basketball has been popularized in Saudi Arabia to the point that the NBA is a very recognizable sports commodity in the country. The NBA also has a soft salary cap, which allows teams to spend far beyond the cap as they wish, with the only penalty being a luxury tax. You see where this is going. They're trying to figure out the first on-ramp. And if you really want to come in and buy your way to success, the NBA is easier than the NFL. The NFL does have a hard cap. And so that's what makes Jacksonville competitive now. That's what makes Kansas City competitive with Dallas, is that they all split the money. But in the NBA, they don't necessarily. It's not a hard cap. So if you really wanted to buy something meaningful in the United States and you really wanted to win right away and just say, we'll take the Spurs and we'll just load it up with everybody, the NBA is an easier on-ramp. So a lot of people, according to Yahoo, a lot of people think that's the first move that's going to be made. I'm going to go back to my question. Do you think Congress should stop them? I think most people are going to say yes. I do. Goes on to say, all of that up, and it sounds like are far more enticing stopping grounds when it comes to the Saudi Arabia and American sports stages, talking about the NBA. All right, well, there you can get an idea, okay? I mean, I guess it's kind of nerdy, but it's setting itself up. I think it's an unavoidable. When I tried to talk about this before, I think people laughed me off and said, oh, not the NFL. And my logic was, yeah, because the NFL had to get Dan Snyder out, who owned Washington. And to get him out meant they had to overpay. And so then you have to go and find somebody with $6 billion. There's not that many people that are that liquid, not named Bezos. Bezos was blocked out. So what are you going to do? So they've actually had to scramble to find enough investors to pay that kind of money. All right, well, $6 billion is now the price tag. I think it was $6.5 billion for Washington, which they overpaid probably by $3 or $4 billion. So there's a new ownership group. It's an American group, but they've had to add on investors. So it was a climb to be able to afford it. So next up is going to be Seattle, and next up is going to be Arizona, and maybe somebody else. So you're going to run out of people that can afford to pay those kind of prices for NFL franchises. Same applies to the NBA. But in the NBA, if a $1 trillion investment fund said, you know what, Spurs, we'll pay you $1 billion. You're worth $300 million. We'll give you $1 billion. You know what else we'll do? We'll get you whatever jets you want. That's what they did with Newcastle. We'll pay everybody, all the players, whatever they want. And we're going to go find every good player and we're going to buy them up just like we did Cristiano Ronaldo. So San Antonio, you know what you're going to love watching? The 12 best players on the planet, all in San Antonio. You know why? Because we can. What happens then? I'm not going to say if. Yeah. I guess for right now, I'm going to say if, but it's coming. So does Congress step in and say, you know, look, we got some hearings. I think they're going to start next week. We got some hearings because I think this is going to be a popular issue. I think you can disagree with me. Is it going to be popular for Republicans and Democrats to say sports franchises? No. We are laying the hammer down now. We cannot do this. Unless, of course, Trump's president. Then guess what? What if he wins? You think the Saudis aren't going to buy some sports teams then? You think? You're crazy. They'll own half of every league there is. And he'll run them because it's what he's always wanted to do. But for right now, they're investigating. The Justice Department is now investigating this LIV deal. They're going to do the best they can to get some brownie points to say, no, man, that money is not good here. But while they're at it, they're going to have to talk about the NBA and the NFL, and they're going to have to decide if they really down the stretch want to come up with rules to keep the Saudis out of American sports. Period. End of story. Oh, look, the Oakland A's are moving to Vegas. Oh, you don't have that much money? Talk to my friend who has $1 trillion fund. How big do you want your stadium to be? They have $1 trillion fund just for this. They're going all over the planet. They're pissed now. You know why they're pissed? Lionel Messi said no. Usually you get killed when you say no. Messi said, nah. He turned down $400 million a year to go play in Miami. Should there be legislation? Can there be legislation? Do you anticipate legislation? And are you willing to admit, you know what? It'd be kind of cool if my team won for a change. I don't care where the money comes from. Are you willing to say what most people around the world, once they start winning, are you willing to say, you know what? I don't care where the money comes from. We're going to win for a change.